What's happening?
Not a lot, Fletch. How are you, mate? Hey, last time we spoke was about 12 years ago, maybe.
That
Lot.
long?
It was a long time ago, and I was thinking about it in the car just on the way here, and I was like, I think Zoli was in the band then. So, weird,
Right.
weird time for Pennywise then.
What's that?
Was that it was a weird time for Pennywise then? I mean, I loved
Yeah.
that album
Oh,
that
yeah.
you had.
Yeah. I mean, everybody seems to love it. We don't talk about it as a band. I always think like, oh, shit, what if we went and re-recorded it with Jim? That would be pretty cool because me and Randy wrote all the songs.
Yeah.
Lily didn't write any of them. I'm sure we talked about that, but yeah, definitely a weird time because we were in limbo and it was strange with Lily because we had so much time with Jim and it was like having a foreign object in the room and but we did what we had to do. I think we put a decent album and here we are back to normal. If there is a way to describe Pennywise as normal, I don't think that's possible. Here we are back up to fucking maniacs with Jim. So yeah, it's life, man. It throws you some curveballs here and there, and you deal with it. But we're glad he's back in the driver's seat doing things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to have you all back. You have been back, obviously, for a long while as the normal group. I was
Yep.
thinking about you guys, and a lot of people try to stake their claim or that Australia is their second home. But when I think about Pennywise, I think you guys are allowed to say it. You guys have been here a lot.
Shit, I think we've been there for like 27 years or something, right?
Wow.
That's a lot of, I think actually this is our 20, someone just pointed out to me, this is our 20th time down, our 20th tour in Australia.
You got to get real estate.
God, I know. Well, my wife's Australian and she just bought some land outside of Melbourne, like just a big lot, so we can
Nice.
build our dream home someday over there. But yeah, she's got some property over there in Australia. So the retirement, we're talking about opening a bar,
Oh, cool.
across the street from Cherry Bar and fuck with James. But yeah, no, it kind of just feels like home. I mean, California in the 80s is so close to like Melbourne in the 2000s or something, or even Sydney. Like I know both those cities have changed, or like surfers or something like that. Like it's just that we're used to that beach culture and just like trunks and flip-flops and hanging out in the water and just everything that goes along with that whole surf skate culture and the music. And it just really feels like you're hanging out in Hermosa Beach when you're in one of the surf towns in Australia. So and the people are very similar to like a small surf community that we grew up in. So it's easy to just be like, hey, like home away from home. It's our second home. It really feels like it.
I was going to say that because I went to Hermosa Beach in 2015, and I know obviously that's where you guys are from, and I'm from a beachy town just north of Sydney. And when I got to Hermosa Beach, and I was like, right, so this is where Pennywise is from, and I was like, it's kind of funny. We kind of live in. It's very similar, like you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Hermosa's gotten super inundated with like people from like New York and New Jersey and some less desirables that are not the same mentality as us. I mean, you saw it like that, but you also saw the small town vibe of it. But like, if you would have been there in the 80s, you would be like, this is straight up Australia, like it's just a different, it's a different time. I mean, you know how it goes. Like you can only keep a good thing under wraps for so long before everybody starts coming. And it kind of sucks because like it used to be that town where you knew everybody, you go out to breakfast, see all your friends, you go to the liquor store, your friends would be buying beers with you. You'd be at the bar, you'd be here. And on the Strand, and now like instead of seeing like 70% of your friends, you see like 10% of your friends because they all had to move away because it's too fucking expensive here. So yeah, but it's definitely one of those. The comparison's definitely there. It's definitely there. And I mean, if you go to Germany and I'm in Berlin, I'm not like, oh, this is our second home. Like I love Berlin, it's great, but it's nothing like Hermosa Beach. Australia is like Hermosa Beach. A lot of the cities.
What was it like in the 80s? Was it rough?
No, it was awesome. I mean, that was the beginning of the punk rock scene here in California, 79, 80. We had in Hermosa Beach, we had Black Flag, Circle Jerks, the Descendants,
Wow.
Red Cross, Toxic, like all these bands, the Germs were all playing in Hermosa Beach, hanging out in Hermosa Beach, practicing in Hermosa Beach, walking the streets of Hermosa Beach. So you're like a 14-year-old kid going, fuck, this is my hero right here. And, helping bands carry their gear into shows and stuff. I mean, backyard parties, it was totally crazy. I mean, the cops, weren't fans of punk rock, and the jocks and the football players and stuff, but man, it was dream life. You wake up in the morning, go surfing, go skateboard some backyard pools in the afternoon, maybe catch an evening surf session, and then get some beers. We used to drink Foster's oil cans actually back in the 80s. That was
Did
like
ya?
our go. Oh yeah, I mean, it was fucking malt liquor, right? Basically, well, it wasn't malt liquor, but it was stronger than a Budweiser, and it was a bigger can. So, we'd get a couple of those each and go to band practice, and or go play a backyard party. Like we all started bands. That was our late night, our nighttime outlet. And yeah, it was, I mean, 80s were just like never going to be able to recreate that. Like punk rock was not popular, so you were basically an outcast, a fucking rebel. Everybody looked at you weird. You're getting constantly harassed by people and cops, and so you felt like you were part of this thing. And it was all happening in Hermosa Beach. I mean, sure, there was Hollywood and Huntington Beach, where like the big clubs were and stuff, but like our little town was just firing. So it was a great time to be alive, for sure. I mean, it's not the same anymore. I'm sure you get a little bit of that here and there. There's a couple good clubs here that still are doing shows, and one of these clubs down the street now, called St. Rock, that our singers involved with have been having a lot of shows. They've had TSOL, they've had Fear, they've had the Descendants. It's like a 300 seat venue, and they're all playing this little club. So still some cool shit happening.
Yeah.
Still some shit
Fuck
happening.
yeah. That's so good.
80s were unbelievable though, man. It just can't even.
Yeah.
I'm wrenching around over here because my back's all fucked up. I'm trying to get comfortable while
Oh,
it
no.
feels like drilling a hole in my back. But
Oh,
I'm
no. What's going on there?
7mm and 9mm bulge disc, on L4 and L5, and the doctors are like, you're fucked. And I've tried everything, so the only thing left is surgery or stem cells. But surgery is like a 2-month recovery, and I've just been trying to make it through the Australian tour, without sending somebody else, because that wouldn't suffice. So
Yeah.
it's going to be ugly, but I'll get it done. So, and then after that, I got to figure out if I'm going under the knife or getting stem cells. So, but either way, it's like a couple month recovery. So it's been bad though. It's 5 months of hell.
Yeah,
It's not.
I feel for you. I mean, apart from your brain and your heart, it's your back. You've really got to look after. Hey, it's a killer. Hey, I was thinking about some of why don't you have a podcast? Like, this is what I was thinking. You've got more stories about all of the punk scene, all the rock scene, all the tours, and they're all fucking really good. And I had to narrow them down to the ones that I really love. I love the carpet. How you guys put the carpet on the walls and you stole it from the bins from the carpet shop or something like that.
Yeah. That's like, we call them carpet caves. So like back when you start a band, when I think I was like 14 or 15, and you start playing in your garage, and the neighbors fucking complain, and they call the cops, right? Because it's too loud.
Yeah.
And then the cops are always coming. So it's like, well, how do we soundproof this? And like, obviously we're not buying drywall or soundboard or some shit. So it's like, oh, carpet deadens. So you go to the dumpster of Carpeteria. That was the main carpet shop around here, and literally pour it out and put it down in the backyard, and then get some carpet fresh and vacuum it, and then you fucking nail it up on the walls like 3 layers deep. And it worked. And it also sounds good because it's not reflective. So literally, we've been in garages our entire lives, playing in these garages covered in dirty carpet. And I always say, like, pounding it up on the ceiling, and like the doggy dandruff and all the shit's like falling in your mouth. Like, you were filthy after an installation of that shit. But where we've been practicing the last 20 years at Jason's old house, Justin, the drummer for 98 Mute, we've been practicing in a single car garage, and we that's where we wrote all these albums. Everything you've heard in the last 20 years was like written in this garage. And I took it all the actual carpet that was off out of the dumpsters, 20 years ago, and all the posters and everything. And I put it all in the museum and recreated it. And now there's a bunch of bands coming through there and playing and shit impromptu. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I got a lot of stories, and a bunch of people tried to get me to do a podcast. I almost did one with Matt from the Bronx. We were talking about doing one, and which would be awesome. But I wanted to do something more like crazy, where like you interview like a Navy SEAL and a Hell's Angel and like a convict and like all kinds of, I have all these crazy friends. I'm not interested in a band guy asking another band guy questions. I mean, it's cool. Everybody's doing it, but I'm like, no, I don't want to interview a fucking band guy. And maybe Jack from TSOL, right? But I mean, and of course here and there, but it just, I don't know. I always feel like everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing something, like, so it's like, oh, another guy, another band guy doing another podcast. So I'm like, so I just bowed out. And Matt went ahead, and his podcast is great. But I can't have a sponsor because things are going to be ugly and things are going to be talked about that no sponsor. Monster was woke you up. I'm like, dude, you can't sponsor my podcast. I'm going to say bad shit on there, and you're going to get in trouble. And they're like, oh, you're probably right. So maybe one of these days. I mean, I'm supposed to write a book. I got about 5 ghostwriters hawking me to write my book. Podcast, been thinking about that. Been thinking about doing a cooking show, all kinds of shit, side project bands, like millions of things that I just never get around to. But I got some stories, man. You couldn't even begin to believe the fucking stories I have.
I'd love to just hear them all, or have them all in a book or something. Well, another good one was the when you had the early days of the band, you had the van and you'd turn off the odometer, or there's probably vans out there with 1,000,000 Ks on them, but they're probably only showing 100,000 or something.
Exactly. Well, those were the rentals, right? We turn them off the rental trucks because you're getting charged by the miles. So I don't feel bad about that. But there's, oh my God, dude, there's so many stories. It's just literally every couple of days someone will say something. I'll go, what? And they'll be like, yeah. Somebody told me, so I have COVID right now, right? I just got off this cruise ship, and a bunch of people got COVID, but I had a runny nose, and I was like, yeah, I got it, like, or whatever. I'm just thinking to myself, I got a runny nose. And then this dude was telling me, yeah, man, you put a pencil up your nose. And I was like, what? On the cruise ship? I didn't remember. I'm like, what do you mean? And he saw, you put a whole pencil up all the way in your nose. And I was like, are you sure? He's going, yeah. And I was like, fuck. Then I started remembering a little bit faintly because I was wasted. And I'm like, cool. So like, that's why I have a runny nose, because I stuck a pencil in my brain. And I was like, well, should I go to the doctor? Maybe I have like a lead infection or some shit. Turns out I have COVID anyways. But point being, like, there's always a story popping up where I'm like, I totally forgot about it. There's literally like hundreds of them. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that whole night. That's definitely a chapter in the book.
Is there any wild shit from Australia that you're allowed to talk about that you've done in the 20 or so trips here? And obviously you're coming out in December.
No. I mean, there's some wild shit for sure. There's the one good story. So there was I might have told it already. The Crash and Burn, right? That there was a bar in, I think it was in, where was it? Was it Brisbane? I think.
Okay.
Right. And our guitar tech. So I used to travel with this electric BB gun, fully automatic machine gun, and we do these cleansings where you get against the wall and you get like 60 shots in the back, and it's pretty brutal. Like, it leaves big welts on you. That's a whole nother story. But I'd take this thing on tour, and I'd like shoot crew members and fans and other bands and just whatever. Just, I mean, it was pretty bad idea to travel around with a fucking machine gun in your bag. That is definitely a bad idea. But so this guitar tech I have, he passes out at the Crash and Burn, and I think I'm with Darren Hawthorne, like, he's production guy in all these festivals, and he's our tour manager, and I think the bar owner, a couple other people. He's passed out in this bar, and I sitting in a chair, and I go and I get some crushed red peppers, and I blow him up his nose, right? And I run back to the table. I go, watch this, and he starts, like the pizza peppers,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
push right up his nose.
Oh,
He wakes up and they're like, "What'd you do?" I'm all, "I put peppers up his nose, crushed red peppers." And they're like, "No fucking way." He wakes up and he just starts freaking out, right? Like he just like loses his mind. And he has we're about 20 feet away, so he can't even see us. Like he doesn't even know where we're sitting, and it's a crowded bar.
hmm.
He gets up and fucking grabs his head and runs in the bathroom, right? I walk in there and I was just like, "Hey," like I go, "Hey, are you all right?" And he goes, "Motherfucker," and he just punches me in the face, like immediately. So he knew I did it. He's throwing water up his nose, just punches me in the face. So
Fuck.
I go out in the hallway and or the kitchen and I get the fire extinguisher, like with the white powder, and I come back in. I go, "Hey man, maybe this will help cool the burn," and I just blast him, his whole body, his whole face, and then I take off running and. He comes running out of the restroom. His eyes are like bright red from the peppers, and his whole body and face is covered in white. And he's running through the bar with a smoke trail coming off him. And we're just in fucking tears. And he just runs out the door, right? Well, we party for like another hour and we go back to the hotel room. I think we're staying at like the Hyatt or something, the one in Brizzy with like it's all open and stuff.
Right.
You can see right now it's like 20 stories, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it was a Hilton. And on the fucking door, he scrawled in with a knife. It says, "If you come in, I will kill you." And I'm his roommate. Keep this in mind. So, because I like, always room with the crew guys. So I'm beating on the door. "Come on, Hans." And it's me and the bar owner and Darren and somebody else knocking on the door. I'm like, "Come on, dude, let me in. It's bedtime." We wanted to get to the mini bar, right? And the door bursts open. He comes out stark fucking naked and attacks me, starts punching me in the face, completely fucking nude. And
Oh,
I'm running down the hallway and I'm trying to fight him, but I keep looking down at his package because it's kind of hard not to. Like, never fought a naked dude before. So we're going at it, throwing blows, completely naked, my opponent. And everyone's laughing so hard. I'm laughing. I can't fight. And he's like, "You motherfucker," and screaming and shit. And then we stopped fighting and you go back to the door and the door had closed and now he's locked out naked. And he was screaming over the railing for security and you can scream down to the front desk. So literally security guards had to come up to the room, let us in the room, and he's standing there naked in the hallway and go inside the room. He had smashed my BB gun into like 20 pieces and broke the mirrors, thrashed the whole room, like totally pissed off about getting burned with the peppers and getting fire extinguished. So that was, it was a good night. It was a good night in Australia. And he put my BB gun back to the other because he knew it was like my favorite toy. He goes, "I'm sorry about your gun. I just didn't want to get shot anymore that night." And I was like, "No, it's fair game." So, but he put it back together and was like, boop, it wouldn't shoot anymore. So, and then I bought him one the next trip to Japan because he wanted one for like years. And I finally they're like $500. I finally bought him a machine gun and I bought like a shotgun.
mm.
He knocks on my door in Japan. I look out the little hole. He's standing there in the hallway with his machine gun with a pair of goggles on. And we have a full BB gun fight in the hallway of this hotel, right? And I got the shotgun and I got him in the face a couple times and he got the bad end of it. But like the next morning, the hotel staff and the management and our handlers in Japan are like, "We need to talk to you." All the wallpaper was riddled with BB gun, like little
Ah.
dents in the wallpaper. And they're like, "This is custom wallpaper. It's made out of seaweed, and the damage is $3,000.
Oh.
Pay fucking $3,000." And I'm always the one paying for it, but he did it this time. And I was like, "Oh, how's it feel? Pay to play. 1,500 for you, 1,500 for me."
So
And he was so fucking pissed off. But I wound up covering the whole bill. So, there's Hans.
how
He's
much
now
money are
quit.
you paying for like how many times has this happened? Like how
I'm
many
like I'm like hundreds of thousands in damages in the
Oh
last
my
20 years.
God.
I mean, I woke up with $10,000 in damage. I mean, on that trip, I smashed out a cab window too, and it cost me $2,000. I mean, like I come home and I owe the band money, and I don't get paid for the tour. But not a good lifestyle. Trust me, it's not. It's not a good idea. But Yeah, it's, Hans was the guy's name. He worked for us for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years. He did our first Australian tour of all time and our first Japanese tour. And then he quit and he works for Billy Joe now for Green Day. He's been his guitar tech for like 15 years, his personal tech. So
Yeah, wow.
he's got a nice, stable job where he's not abused. You can find him in the home videos on our home movies. He's the naked guy running down the hallway. In that one too,
I'm gonna go and have a look.
all bruised and tattered. Yeah, that's Hans. That was Australia. What was that called? Alternative Nation, and then we went straight to Japan,
Right.
like 25 years ago.
Now,
Awesome.
are you still this way, or have you tamed down a little?
Mm, a little, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm still having some problems out there on the road of life. So,
Oh, it's
but the
great.
band has become less tolerable. I try to keep it like off the bus and like
Mm.
more in like the bar out of the hotel, or I don't know. But every once in a while I fuck up and get in trouble. So yeah, shit happens.
All right. So the rule is you're safe from Fletcher if you're on the bus.
Yeah, but not actually,
Not
kind
that
of
safe.
not that safe. There's been a couple recent incidents that were frowned upon, but alcohol's a hell of a drug. What can I
Uh,
say?
Well, Good Things Festival is happening in December. It's great to have you back. Like you said, you're probably going to be a resident one day. I mean, that's the way
Yeah,
it's looking.
yeah.
And how did
Why
you?
not?
So you met your wife? Was she's Australian? Obviously, did you meet her out here, or she was working in the US?
She went to high school here and then went to Pepperdine University and got a couple master's degrees. I met her when she was pretty young. Actually, she had a fanzine and or a blog online, and her friend did, and she wound up interviewing Pennywise, or interviewing me, and then coming to a bunch of Pennywise shows, and was friends with like our band and our crew and all these years, and for like quite a few years over here. And then she moved back to Australia, and I talked to her occasionally here and there. And then we were on tour in Australia, and she came out, brought her mom out to a show in um, outside of Melbourne, one of the suburbs. We play not Franken, what is it called?
You're not talking
Frankston.
foot. Oh,
She
Frankston.
Frankston.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
She just yelled Frankston. So she brought her mom out, and we wound up going to the casino that night, the Melbourne Crown. I got thrown out. She tried to defend me against the security guards at the think I'm banned for life, but
Casino or something.
yeah, the casino, and we were playing Texas Hold'em, and it got kind of heated, and the Crown Casino, and
Mm.
we got thrown out, and we wound up hanging out, and then back and forth a couple trips here and there. She'd come over to US, we'd go to Australia, and we just kept hanging out, and eventually we're like, hey, we should get married. So she was actually living in Australia, and she quit her job and moved over here to hang out with me, which is crazy. But yeah, we've been on a wild ride for like the last 4 years. Awesome. And she loves Australia. I love Australia. So eventually that's the game plan. Come there and open a bar and grow old and fat, pouring rum drinks for the Aussies.
Oh, that is so good. All right. Well, I'm keen to come to that bar when it opens. It's going to be insane. I'd love to be
It'll
there.
be it'll be a
And
good one.
and look, don't stock Fosters because no one in Australia drinks Fosters. Everyone
I
outside
know.
of Australia thinks
You
we
need
do.
the income, right? You need the income.
That's right. Absolutely. Fletcher, thanks for jumping on the podcast today, mate. It was good to chat with you again. Obviously playing at Good Things Festival in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. But thanks a lot.
Thank you.